there. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you doing?
I am doing very well. Thank you for talking to me. I appreciate it very much.
My pleasure.
And I know it's off topic, but congratulations on your son winning a Tony Award because that's just cool. So I just had to
Yeah.
say that.
No, that was pretty amazing.
It's
Yeah, I
nice that
know.
theater is back, and I'm sure you are proud of him for his work. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, we just like to see him working.
yeah,
He was off for a year.
yeah,
When the theater shut down, that was it. That was his career. He was finished for a year. Now it's all coming back. He's working on Beetlejuice too, which is coming back in April.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, that is definitely a way to get back to work is kick it off with an award. So,
And winning a Tony Award. It's pretty nice. Yeah,
well,
we're proud. We're proud of him.
do you consider it a personal triumph yourself for how many children you have freaked out over the years? Is that sort of a badge of honor that you wear proudly?
Yeah. If I was being facetious, I would agree with you. I would say yes, I certainly. I mean, that's my job is to scare kids, right? But if I was to give you a serious answer, I'd say I'm more proud of the kids who learned to read on my books and
Yeah.
the kids who didn't like to read and then discovered my books and then did like to read. That's sort of the whole point of the thing. But I do like scaring them, obviously.
You're definitely quite a prolific writer, and it's fair to say that there are a
Yeah.
lot of people who have read your books. So, did you always want your books and stories to be turned into TV shows and films? Was that something that you had thought about at all? Was it something you weren't necessarily concerned with when you've been writing them?
It was something I was not necessarily thinking about when I was writing. I said when I was writing Fear Street or writing Goosebumps. I'm an author. I'm
Yeah.
here in New York. I'm not out in LA. I'm in New York, and I'm like being in my room, writing, not collaborating, writing books. And I don't think you really think about it. And then people come to you, and then you have it. Look, it took 23 years for them to make the Goosebumps movie. Goosebumps had been around 23 years before they finally got the movie out. So if I'd been worried about it for the whole time, that would have been terrible, right?
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it. So when people come to you and they say, "Oh, we'd like to make a movie of your work," you say, "Oh, great." And then you say, "Oh, great." I always have those two reactions. Because for one thing, you don't know if it's going to be any good. It could be horrible,
Yeah.
right? I've been so lucky in that all the adaptations for my stuff has been really good. The Goosebumps movies were good, and this Just Beyond series, I think is wonderful. I'm just lucky that way.
What has the experience been like for you to see them come together? Obviously, each one feels like it would be a very different experience. Are you good with watching them and seeing them as separate, entities from your own work?
Yeah, I am. It's kind of fun, I think, to see if somebody takes your story and goes off in their direction with it. It's fun to see what they do with your story. I really enjoy that part. I do. I think some authors probably hate it, but I enjoy it. And of course, it's always great when people come to you and say, "Oh, your book was much better." I love that too.
How did this series come about? Was this Did it surprise you that somebody wanted to take this on, especially with the sort of anthology nature of it? Or how did you hear that they were going
Yeah,
to be
yeah. Well,
adapted?
I was surprised. I had never written any graphic novels. I'd done everything, but I'd never done any graphic novels. And I ran into an editor from Boom Studios at Comic-Con in San Diego, the last one you could go to, and a couple of years ago. And we started talking about how I'd never done graphic novels. And he said, "Oh, we should try something." And we came up with the name Just Beyond, just beyond reality, just beyond the normal world. And he signed me up. I wrote four of them. I've written the fourth one comes out next month. It's called Monstrosity. And that's how the graphic novels got started. And then they went to Seth Grahame-Smith and said, take a look at this graphic novel. Is this something you would like to adapt for television?
What do you like about the approach that he took with these stories and translating them? I love how the series is done. I think they each create their own world, which is so fun.
Yeah, I like the variety of it. I'm a big Twilight Zone fan.
Yeah,
Rod Serling is a big hero of mine, and I love those shows. And this has that Twilight Zone feel to it. And I like that there's a supernatural one, there's a fantasy one, there's an alternate universe one, there's supernatural. I like that a lot, that you get all those things that they did on the Twilight Zone.
Yeah. There's also such a great cast throughout this series. There's a lot of new faces. There's a lot of young actors. What's it like for you to see how all of these actors took this material on?
Well, they were so good. These young actors were terrific. And they didn't have much time to work. They filmed 8 of them. I think they had 2 weeks to film each episode. And it was during the pandemic, which makes it, even tougher. And the performances are just terrific, I think.
What's it like for you to see your characters visualized in that way? I mean, do you picture anyone in particular when you're writing characters, or is it just kind of strange to see a character that you wrote brought to life for real?
Well, I'm used to it now. So it's not, it isn't strange. When I write, I try to picture kids that are the age of who I'm writing for. So if I'm writing a teen book, a YA book, a Fear Street, I have teen faces in my mind. And I try to picture them as teenagers. And then when I'm writing for younger kids, I picture younger kids. But that's about as far as I go. I'm not that visual a person, really.
Are there tricks to making fantasy and horror work as family entertainment? When you do material like this, do you have a gauge for how far you can go when it comes to the scares?
Well, I have a gauge, like for Fear Street books, I have one solid rule that I always stick to for this 7 to 12 age group. And that is, they have to know that the story couldn't happen. They have to know it's a fantasy. It couldn't really happen in real life. And when you establish that, then you can go pretty far with the scares.
Fear Street did really well. I mean, those movies, I loved them. My coworkers all loved them. We talked about them a lot. What is it like to see the success of that, the reaction to that? How has it been to hear people talking about what they thought of those movies?
The whole thing was a shock to me. I've never done anything R-rated before in my life. I say even my life isn't R-rated. Never. And then to have these 3 R-rated films that are so violent, we sure killed off a lot of teenagers, didn't we? We killed a lot. And so that was kind of a surprise to me that they wanted to do it in that way. But I'm so glad they did them so well.
Yeah, I thought
Lee Janiak, just an amazing director. She did a masterful job with them, I think.
Yeah, I mean, just the way the Gore was approached for that, I thought there were some really just creative and imaginative things that were done with it that I haven't seen before, which doesn't happen too often these days. There's only so many ways you can kill a person. So
yeah, with an axe.
Yeah.
Not too many ways.
Yeah, so I thought they were really fun.
That's true. Anyway, I was amazed by that and by the success. All 3 films were #1 on Netflix. It was unbelievable. I'm having a great year, I'm pretty lucky.
You said that your stories are a combination of humor and fear. Why has that always been a good combination for you? Why do you like to add humor to that mix?
The secret is I never planned to be scary. That wasn't my goal. I always was funny. I did a humor magazine for 10 teenagers for 10 years called Bananas. And I wrote about 100 joke books. I was always funny. And so when I got switched over, which is sort of a long story, and started being a scary guy, I had to bring the humor with me because that's my main interest, really.
You've said too that the scary stuff doesn't scare you. So when did you realize that? I mean, was it reading scary books? Was it watching scary movies and not having the same reaction that other
Yeah,
people have?
no, it's people coming to me and saying, after I read your book, I had to leave all the lights on and I locked all the doors. And I thought, gee, I've never had that feeling from anything. I never had it. It's just something missing in me, I think.
What were the stories that most inspired you as a kid? What do you think had the biggest influence on your writing?
Um, well, a lot of things, I think a lot. But when I was a kid, there were these scary comic books, these horror comics called Tales from the Crypt and The Vault of Horror. And they were very, very influential on me. They were gory, gruesome horror stories with brilliant art. And they all had a funny twist ending. Every story had a funny twist at the end. And it's what I try to do.
Do you have other adaptations that are currently in development or in the works now? Do you know like what the next thing based on your work could be?
Well, I don't know if I can talk about them. I don't know. I did these 4 books, YA books called The Babysitter.
Yeah.
About this girl, and I think they're being developed, the babysitter books, but I'm probably not allowed to talk about it.
Okay.
And I think there's another Goosebumps TV series in the works, but I haven't heard much about that.
Where do you go to for inspiration now? Are there things that you turn to, like if you're between writing something and you want to get inspiration from somewhere?
Between? When am I between? I'm never between. That's a problem.
I didn't know if you ever need a refresher.
No, I don't know. I read. I read all the time. I'm a very big reader. I read every day, but I read mostly thrillers and mysteries. I like old British mysteries. I've been reading Perry Mason mysteries from the 40s. Earl Stanley Gardner, he's great. I read that. I don't know where I just have to use my own brain for inspiration, I think, and keep going.
You previously said you started writing when you were 9 years old. How does it feel to still be doing it all these years later and to see how relevant your work still is?
Yeah, I mean, what's wrong with me? Why do I still like it? Most people know when to quit, right?
I mean, clearly you chose the right thing.
Yeah, obviously I'm cut out. I've never done anything else. Never had a real job, but I just love it. I don't know. And now, especially during these hard times and during the past couple of years, when I sit down in the morning to write, it was like a bit of normal life for me. It was like, my lifestyle hadn't changed. I have a couple hours of writing every day. It's sort of the best part of my day.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally understand that. I mean, aside from, doing these kind of things where I just talk to people through a computer now, you kind of don't have to skip a beat when you can just keep writing the same way that you were.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Well, I appreciate you talking to me. I love the show. I love your work.
Thank you. Thank you, Christina.
And I love the adaptations, which you can't always say. So I appreciate all of that. Thank you so much.
That's great. That's great. My pleasure.